Welcome back to Legacy of Kain Defiance. And we are back to Kain. This is a skeleton. I have no idea why this is here, it makes no sense.
This artifact seemed as though it was made for that unusual lock. Now the door could be opened. Falcon insignia. Balance emblem. Cadaverous laceration.
You are most welcome. And with this we should go into the way the items here work, because it is a change from Soul Reaver 2, I suppose. And there you could occasionally hold something in your hands. Here, as Raziel, you will still sometimes to get to actually physically hold something in your hands, but usually the items will be in that little inventory screen, and there are voice clips with their names for literally everything you pick up as both Kain and Raziel. And oh yes, I will be showing them all off. As you can see, we are back in the prison, and the Sarafan Stronghold, the second iteration of it, the chapter 3, is where the game begins to pick up and where you begin to understand the way the game is designed. Because a lot of the chapters and a lot of the levels are essentially the same locations that are being gradually expanded and sometimes altered between chapters. And sometimes these changes are nice to look at and fun to explore, but sometimes when you have to run through the same place for 5 times, that becomes frustrating and annoying. And this is one of those things that's either lazy game design or a good artistic move, and I think that it's both. This is a TK rune, do not miss this one. Second cell to the left, remember. Also the automatic targeting the automatic targeting for the TK blast, it's occasionally janky, which is why TK is not really the most useful thing in combat, because you will not always be able to predict what you will pick up or push away with your TK. And this is a new breed of Sarafan warriors, and they suck! Because they can flinch lock you. And the entire combat engine here is centered around you flinch locking your enemies, not the other way around. And, well, when they execute these long combo attacks, it is painful. By the way, this is something that I talked about in the first Blood Omen, and also should have talked in Soul Reaver 2, but never really did, for reasons. It's that, if you remember Blood Omen 1, well, most notably the Malek's Bastion, but also the Heaven section of the Avernus Cathedral, they have phantom suits of armor as enemies there. These suits of armor, they were actually redesigned into the Sarafan warriors in Soul Reaver 2, and now with even more alterations in Defiance. So everything is connected unless it's Blood Omen 2. Yes, as you can see, the exploration is kind of fused together with backtracking.
Malek, the great Sarafan warrior. I had met him before. His sword and shield seemed to have gone astray.
Yes, and his sword and shield are how we will open these doors with yellow force field video game barriers blocking the path, because game logic, magic, whatever. And yes, it is possible to keep this up forever. They will not die finally until they are on the ground. Yes, this sucks, this is painful. And I have died before to these people, simply because I was not getting lucky enough with being not flinch locked. Also, I keep confusing keys. This is easily the most disgusting sudden camera angle change in the entire game, hands down. I have not died here personally before, but that's only because I reacted in time. And spellcasters, the third type of enemy. Yeah, you want to kill them first. First, they can do ranged attacks, and secondly, and more importantly, they can make other enemies immune to flinches. They do not make anyone invulnerable, but they make enemies immune to flinches, and the entire combat system is, as I said, centered around you flinching enemies with your attacks. And when the enemies don't react to you hitting them with a sword, it sucks, because they can hit you with their own sword, or mace, or axe, or whatever it is the hell they are holding in their hands. The correct way to avoid getting stunned by these people in green is to evade, back away from them and TK blast them, but it doesn't always work, it's unreliable.
Tell me, where can I find your master? Quickly, Mobius is... in the tower. Good.
Mobius may be the time streamer, but he is clearly not aware of the thing called compartmentalization. Attack! Sanguine Sanger is the equivalent of Cadaverous Laceration, but for mid-air. And this is what it looks like. In general, these barrage combo attacks are the primary method of dispatching of regular human enemies. However, they will not work on everything, unfortunately. Often, the basic 3-hit combo will be the way to go. This is another thing that the game will do very, very often. It will lock you with enemies in the same room, and I mean, it is not annoying as of yet, by the way, that was awesome. It is not annoying as of yet, but it will become irritating later. And yes, setting enemies on fire is fun. However, you will find that Raziel is a lot more equipped to do so than Kain is. And this is why you don't want to make your game with a fixed camera, because it's very hard to pull off, and any mistake and you get this. Everything is behind the column. And this is where the backtracking ends and exploration of new areas begins. Now this jump cut here, it was me getting turned around and misremembering that there was something else on that second floor, but there was not, so this is where you go. Now for one of the more horrible camera angles. You're supposed to hit that telekinetic switch. Oh my god, Blood Omen 2 is back. It's got a telekinetic switch. But then this happens, because the camera expects you to, well, jump away from there, so yep. Thankfully this is not as bad, but it still breaks the immersion, if you will. Do you like block puzzles? Because block puzzles are back, with a vengeance. It's nowhere near as bad as Soul Reaver 1, of course, but they're back. And yes, Kain has to push them too now.
Malek's missing shield. I hated to restore his dignity, but I would need to return this to his monument before I could progress.
Oh, remember how I said that I will be showing off the voice clips for item names? I lied, I forgot about Malek's shield and Malek's sword, I apologize. Thankfully, I do remember about the most important one. And yes, shades do get stuck occasionally in geometry, and sometimes it screws over with you. Badly. Also, I am almost certain that these Sarafan warriors here, they serve no purpose other than to show you where to go. And that is nice, because otherwise it would have, or it might have been unclear that you have to, well, return to the statue of Malek, the paladin, who is not a paladin, because the statue is not a paladin, but Malek was the paladin. But the statue is not Malek, even though it's a statue of Malek. I think my brain just gave up on me forever. This part sucks. The reason is that you do not have enough TK to take them all out. Yeah. Also, the TK is unreliable because you cannot always predict the direction in which the enemy will fly. Now, you do not have to go around the entire room and, well, take everything out, but you do want to do that because there is a collectible in the end of this improvised walkway. I think it's a TK rune. Or is it a health talisman? Either way, it's a collectible. Yes, it's there in the end. Also, it is quite satisfying to get rid of these persons for these fiery arrows of death. So I can now hit them with a blood-sucking sword of death. And yes, the auto-facing is occasionally wonky because there are enemies actually behind that wall, which Kain detects. There is nothing here. However, this is another one of those places where you want to go the extra mile and explore, because the Malak's sword, which is what we need to get, it's not at the end, it's over there. But what you actually want to do is you want to continue over here, because there is another health talisman here. Yeah, don't miss this health talisman. In fact, don't miss health talismans at all, especially as Kain, because Kain's sections have more combat and the combat is slightly more difficult. Partially, I think it's because Kain's range of attacks, it feels a bit shorter than that of Raziel.
Malak's sword belonged in his right hand. However distasteful this errand was, I would return it to its proper place.
And it would appear that Kain is not happy with being an errand boy for a statue? Okay, you know what, I agree, this is quite distasteful. And this happens. I never had that happen before, I'm not sure why it happens. Maybe because I'm standing on this thing. By the way, I just find it amusing how the Sarafan... okay, let's try that again. I am amused when I think about how there are just Sarafan warriors cluttered underground there, well, under the floor, waiting to pop out. Yeah. Unfortunately, having archers on your back as you are fighting the melee enemies also sucks because, well, they are quite accurate and they will hit you and and every time you get hit by an arrow you fall onto the ground. And it sucks. Well, not every time, okay, but you do get stunned. And by the way, yes, they can shoot you out of the air.
The way to the tower now lay open before me. I look forward to finding Mobius and resuming our conversation.
Yes, the time streamer will meet another time streamer. Because Kain is a time streamer. Mobius is the time streamer, but Kain is also a time streamer. Come on, he knows how time works, he knows how to use the chronoplast. He has an understanding of the time being the force of nature in and of itself that is relentless and irredeemable. He's a time streamer. Skill. Yes, soon, rather soon, it will become very irritating and frustrating being locked up in a room with enemies and having to kill everything to progress. And, well, suffice to say that these fights, they will become progressively longer and longer. They will never get horribly, horribly long and tedious like the ones in Blood Omen 2 do, or like the ones in Soul Reaver 2 do by the end, to be honest. But I think there will be a point where some enemies will become so painful just to watch and observe that I will be probably cutting them out later. But rest assured, nobody will be missing anything. I will not be cutting out anything important or amusing. That door is actually the way forward, but not now. We need a decorative sword to open it. My one regret here is that I did not have more range on my TK. Luckily, this is also an option. Sometimes I think that the game is going a little bit overboard with the particle effects, especially when Kain is concealed within them. Yeah, as I said, TK is not reliable.
Decorative sword.
That was beautiful. That was just beautiful. Now, the door on the left, it is the way forward, but not right now. First, we need to do other thing. And the other thing is backtracking. And this is actually one of the worst things about the game. It's sometimes not entirely clear where you are supposed to go. Because I remember that the first time I played this, it was quite painful for me, because I entered that room on the left, and yes, this is fun. I entered the room on the left and I had no idea what I was supposed to do. And it took me a while to figure it out. By the way, here, nothing. Just wall. Yeah, TK is not always reliable. And sadly, I don't have any more TK energy, which is annoying. And by the way, that is actually the, well, recommended way to dispose of these green axe-wielding people, because otherwise it's a real pain in the ass to fight anyone in these close quarters. And by the way, yes, it is very possible to fall off and die. So yeah, when there's little space and death on both sides, not advised. Not advised at all. Nothing here. Don't miss this arcane tome.
Curious. This artifact, joined with the relic I discovered earlier, appeared to be but one fragment of a larger emblem. This shard was endowed with elemental fire, enhancing both the Reaver and my telekinetic powers.
It's not actually enhanced so much with fire as with the energy of conflict. This is the thing about Kain's elemental upgrades. They were supposed to be attuned to the pillars, and this one is for conflict, but some were cut out, so yeah, now it's flame. And as you can see, enemies kill each other in like 2 hits most. I mean 2 hits at most. And this is another thing that comes back from Blood Omen, from the first Blood Omen. It's that basically the ratio of your health to your damage to enemies' health to enemies' damage. Enemies have little health and have an insane amount of damage, whereas Kain deals very little damage and has a lot of health, and as a result doesn't take much from the attacks. It worked the same way in Blood Omen, because in Blood Omen everything was killing itself in 2 hits as well. I think it's an interesting way of balancing things. And this is another running theme. Platforms being powered by fire things and telekinetic switches. Magic. Welcome to Legacy of Kain Defiance. By the way, we are actually almost done with this chapter. All that is left is to meet Mobius, the Time Streamer, and ask him a few questions.
Here you are at last. I see you found a fragment of the balance emblem. This will be of even further use to you, if you can find the other 3. Now, shall we?
Yes. Let us continue our conversation, but on a somewhat different footing. Now, what do you have to tell me, Mobius?
You cannot kill me. We both know that this is not how or when I die.
Death is not the only possible outcome.
Your delusions of fulfilling the vampire's foolish prophecies have badly distorted your judgment. And Raziel is not what you think.
You dare imagine what I think.
So, you prevented Raziel's soul from entering the Reaver. Do you believe for a moment that by this you have averted your fate? Or his? Or that of Nosgoth itself? Your manipulations are pathetic.
Yet Raziel retains his free will, and that's what frightens you, isn't it, Mobius? You cannot see his path, and so you cannot control it.
And neither can you. Yes, Raziel is shrouded from us, but we see the ripples of his potential actions, and every path he might choose leads to the same outcome. He will kill you, Kain. In sparing Raziel, you have written your own death sentence.
You still have not answered the question I came to ask. Where is Raziel?
He is not, in a true sense, here. Not now.
Don't try my patience, Mobius. What have you done with him?
He is contained. In time, it may be safe to release him. His destiny must be completed. He will enter the sword. But until that time, he is dangerous. Far more dangerous than you could understand.
And your incontrovertible evidence?
The answers are plain, if you know where to look. Go west of the pillars. There you will find a testament, written in stone.
But stones, too, can lie.
The pillars of Nosgoth stood pristine against the horizon. To the west, I would find the enlightenment Mobius felt I lacked.
Thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.